Nancy Pelosi is feeling more confident these days about the Democrats' chance of holding on to the House in the 2022 midterm. So we've been discussing the shift in polling significantly in the Senate and then also in the House. And the Senate looks like there's a pretty good chance the Democrats will be able to hold on to it. They have, more likely than not that they will as far as polling goes. The House, they're still massive underdogs, but polling has been shifting in their direction. And we've had a few cases where in these special elections that have happened, a Democrat way out performs the polls, or even in the New York example, the Democrat who was down in the polls by, I think, 8 points for much of the race, was never up in the polls, won the race. Didn't just outperform the polls, but actually won the race. So the hope is a lot of these elections could be upsets. And even though it's just like a 28 out of 100 chance that the Democrats hold on to the House, that'll actually come true, which would be wonderful. So here's Nancy Pelosi speaking to this idea and feeling very confident about it. And then we'll look at polling from 538.
Look, right now, my focus is on holding the House. How many times have I told you over the past year and a half plus that the Democrats would hold the House, despite some of the so-called conventional, so-called wisdom in Washington, D.C.
So-called Nancy, so-called Pelosi, so-called making a statement.
Saying that in the off year, the president's party always loses the Congress or seats. The fact is, that isn't conventional and it isn't wisdom, because convention has changed. We communicate in a different way. We have a different reality here now in terms of our own democracy being on the ballot, our planet being on the ballot, the future of our country being on the ballot. And also, we always believed we would win, so we always prepared for it.
Okay, so one of the things I struggle with, is what's more effective? Saying, oh, it's going to be so difficult for us to win, that's why you have to go out to vote, or having confidence so that your voters know that it's worth it, to go out to vote and it's not just completely hopeless. And you kind of have to strike a balance. So I never want to see the party that I'm rooting for oversell and say, oh, we're absolutely going to win, 100%. Otherwise, I think you take away a little bit of the urgency behind people, but then you also don't want to feel like there's no chance. Otherwise, people won't go out to vote. So you got to strike that balance, and interesting to see Nancy Pelosi there. And then I don't like how she waved off the fact that it is conventional wisdom and it is the pattern that the party who won the White House often doesn't do well in the next midterms, because that is an effect based on our system. You have two parties, likely because things aren't going to be perfect no matter what. People will blame the problems that they see that their political system hasn't fulfilled, and they'll blame the party that's in power. They'll blame often the president's party that's in power, and the House and Senate will sacrifice people within that party because of it. And it makes sense. And I don't like her pretending like that's not something that would be a huge obstacle to overcome in this midterm. But I do agree with her assessment that this is not a conventional time in American history. This is such a different political environment. And so understanding that will allow you to have better analysis about the midterms. So to look at polling, first we'll just look at where is it now, and then we'll look at how it has changed. So this is from 538. Again, it puts together a bunch of different polling into one average. And right now it has the chances of the Democrats winning at, I think it said 28 earlier. I meant to say 29 out of 100, and Republicans at 71 out of 100. So you look at this normally and you would think, okay, Republicans are going to win. Absolutely, right? But one of the interesting parts about it is on 538, they'll show you how it's changed. And you can see the only direction since July, mid-July, that polling has gone for the Democrats is up. It's gone in the Democrats' direction. And so you see on July 11th, the Democrats' chances were, the lowest it looks like it got was 12 out of 100 of holding the House, and Republicans had 88 out of 100. So an 88% chance of winning the House. Then you come all the way to now, and it's 29-71. And we still have, a couple months-ish, a little under, until the midterms. And so you could see that continue to change. And then if people do outperform the polls, because again, this is a reflection of the polls, and it seems like Democrats lately have been outperforming the polls, you could have a situation where Democrats hold on the House, and that would be historic, or at least historically less likely, and obviously would be the best thing for the future of America and for this next 2 years. Because what we're going to see if Democrats lose the House is just everything's going to come to a halt. Biden won't really be able to do anything except for executive orders here and there. Nothing passed in the Senate by the Democratic Party is going to matter because the House won't be able to pass it. And maybe we'll get some form of bipartisanship on something that's not that significant. And that would be very unfortunate because I think there's a few things Biden and the Democrats must get done to have even, followed through enough on some of their campaign promises. We went over during my Patreon bonus show this last week. I do a weekly bonus show for the patrons. So patreon.com/Luke Beasley. If you want to get the full show, hours before any of the stories get uploaded to YouTube. So obviously if you're watching this on YouTube, you just get the one story that come out over the course of a few hours. If you're a patron, you get the whole 30-minute multiple stories all in one, hours before any of them get uploaded to YouTube. And you get a weekly bonus show. And what we did on the show was go through Biden's last speech before the election and grade it compared to what he's gotten done. So what did he say in this speech? What was he promising at the time? And then what has he ended up following through on? And I was pointing out he needs to do a few more things. We wish he could do a bunch more things, right? But as far as within the political reality, I still think there's a number of things that he needs to address and get done. And he would need the support of the House and Senate for that. So if we lose that in the midterms, it's game over on that agenda, and that would be very unfortunate, not to mention the damage that Republicans would attempt to do. Obviously, having Biden in there would prevent significant legislative damage, but just the obstruction they would be able to take part in or head up would be devastating.